All right, guys. So I have to talk about my alma mater, UNC Chapel Hill, right? And the reason why is because Nikole Hannah-Jones, who is the controversial investigative journalist that came out with the 1619 project that has been heavily criticized by conservatives and some historians for inaccuracies in trying to reframe American history around slavery. She has turned down a tenure offer from UNC Chapel Hill. Okay, now this is kind of controversial because in April, Miss Nikole Hannah-Jones had received an offer from the Huntsman School of Journalism and Media at UNC Chapel Hill to be the night chair in race and investigative journalism. Okay, so she received this offer to be in this position. Now, according to Nikole Hannah-Jones, historically, when somebody's offered this position, they're offered tenure at the same time. But apparently, UNC Chapel Hill and their board of trustees made a decision to kind of hold off on that, but instead offer her a 5-year fixed contract. And lo and behold, here comes the cries of racism, right? They're saying that this is racist and that UNC is discriminating against her because she is black, right? Even though, she is an alumni of the school of journalism at UNC Chapel Hill. She also graduated with honors. Okay, she is a distinguished alumni of the university, and she was offered a job in the first place. But, apparently there's still some racism here. So after all this outcry from her and people calling racism, UNC decided to offer her tenure, right? They decided to offer her tenure. And lo and behold, Miss Nikole Hannah-Jones decides not to take that up, and instead she decides to go to Howard. So let's listen to her talk with Miss Gayle King on CBS this morning to discuss why she made the decision that she made. Take a look.
What have you decided to do? We just heard the vote was 9-4, offering you the tenure. What have you decided?
Well, I've decided to decline the offer of tenure. I will not be teaching on the faculty of the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. It's a very difficult decision, not a decision I wanted to make. And instead, I'm going to be the inaugural night chair in race and journalism at Howard University.
So many things to unpack there. First, let's start with you declining the offer. The vote was 9-4, clearly in your favor. There are some people that could say, you said you wouldn't take the job without being offered tenure. They offered you the tenure, and you're still saying, thanks, but no.
Absolutely.
Because?
Well, because look what it took to get tenure. So this was a position that since the 1980s came with tenure. The night chairs are designed for professional journalists who have been working in the field to come into academia. And every other chair before me, who also happened to be white, received that position with tenure.
It had never been denied. No one had ever been denied tenure before.
Exactly. And I went through the tenure process, and I received the unanimous approval of the faculty to be granted tenure. And so to be denied it and to only have that vote occur on the last possible day, at the last possible moment, after threat of legal action, after weeks of protest, after it became a national scandal, it's just not something that I want anymore.
All right, guys. So essentially what she's saying is that, well, since she went through all this drama, okay, and because it took longer for her to receive tenure than others, therefore she got offended and she decided she wants to go to Howard University instead. She's going to join that school. Here's my thing. I mean, to me, I just find it funny how you accuse the board of trustees of being racist, right? You accuse the school of being racist. Okay, I mean, keep in mind, she's written about racism all her life, right? So she makes money off talking about this stuff. And then they finally give you what you want. And then you decide that, I don't really want it anymore. Screw you. I'm going to go join Howard University. And you know what? That's fine, right? That's okay. Okay, you know why? Because, as an alumni of UNC Chapel Hill, I got to say, being a Tar Heel, right, it does come with its ups and downs in certain areas, but having that on your resume, the fact that she graduated from UNC Chapel Hill in the first place and that she's an alumni is one of the reasons why she's even in this position. And I really do think that a lot of people don't appreciate just having a school like UNC on your resume, okay? And I just find it odd how, people want to try to say that she's being treated unfairly in some way when, you know, there's legitimate criticism of her 1619 project. Yes, she won a Pulitzer Prize for it, but there has been historical inaccuracies. Okay, she tried to basically say that the American Revolution was fought for because colonists wanted to keep their slaves. I mean, things that are just outright just like, come on. You can't be a journalist, okay, and an academic making these kind of claims. And that was a concern among, you know, some people on the board. That's like, hey, you know, she might not necessarily have the academic background necessary to get a tenure offer at this moment, but she got it anyways. But again, people want to cry racism, even though they offered her the damn position, right? She went to the school. She graduated from the school. And she's also in the Journalism Hall of Fame at the school. But again, racism, because they didn't offer her tenure, in which they actually turned around and did. Okay, and I will say this, that there allegedly was some donor pressure, you know, like a big donor, you know, basically sent a letter, you know, saying, hey, you know, we don't necessarily agree with this person's work and her background in terms of the things that, you know, she says, right, and the ideas that she's pushing. So again, that could have been some money involved with this as well. And guys, I mean, listen, that's just how things work, man. Right? You know, one thing about life, people gotta understand, money controls everything, right? If you want to know why stuff happens, it's all about money, right? If donors are upset about something, right? People that actually donate to your school, they say, hey, we don't like this. Yeah, I mean, the school is going to respond to that because that's their lifeline, right? The money, right? Everything is about money. Okay, I think it's more about that than in her work rather than her race. Because again, if it was about her race, I don't think she would have got offered a position in the first place if that was the issue. Again, guys, this is a part of a larger problem going on at UNC in which, you know, there are students of color, minority students that feel like the school is racist towards them and not giving them a fair shake. And the student body president, who happens to be black, right? The first black and openly gay student body president at UNC Chapel Hill basically came out and told black students not to come to this school and to consider other options. Take a look.
UNC student body president slamming the university in an open letter tonight, telling students and faculty of color, quote, Carolina is not deserving of your talents. This comes in response to a shocking announcement. 70% of Black Caucus members at a recent meeting say they are considering leaving the university. WRAL's Julian Grace joins us live tonight on UNC's campus with the reaction. Julian?
Lena, there is lots of reaction, and we read through that open letter, and it's telling some of the top black students in the country to bypass the admissions office here at UNC and head to another university. Now, the student body president, Lamar Richards, he also makes an account of a racist incident that he faced right here on campus. It's a two-page letter with 16 paragraphs that could serve as a warning for faculty and staff considering UNC. Student body president Lamar Richards typed out the open letter. In it, he says, quote, Carolina is not deserving of your talents, aspirations, or successes. If you are a student, staff member, or academic from a historically marginalized identity exploring UNC, I invite you to look elsewhere. We wanted to talk to students about the letter, and many turned us down. But Jaden Johnson shared his feelings on if those historically marginalized should look at other universities.
In a way, look at other options, but still look at UNC. It is a good school, but there's more and better out there. Definitely for, I say, students of color. There are definitely that will actually care for you and care for you and your education.
Reading through the paragraphs, Richards mentions the national scrutiny the university is under, not offering tenure to Pulitzer Prize winning journalist Nikole Hannah-Jones. Jones wrote the 1619 Project, which documents American history and reframes it from the time the first enslaved Africans arrived. Richards questions the university's decision-making process, saying, quote, examine how Carolina shifts blame to other entities, then analyze closely what decisions are made or are not made by our university and question why. The soul of our university is at stake, and Carolina is not prepared.
I've learned, but there's some things I had to learn outside or the hard way that I'm going to take from here that I really wish I would have known beforehand, definitely being a black student.
There is more. UNC Chancellor Kevin Guskowitz says he will meet with members of the university's Black Caucus next week. He also says, quote, I am deeply concerned that some members of the Carolina Black community do not feel like they can thrive in this environment. So much more to tell on this story, that is, Lena. We'll follow back up, of course, next week.
All right, guys. So student body president Lamar Richards, is telling black students not to go to UNC because they feel like the school is racist or that, black kids are not getting a fair shake. And I got some thoughts on this, okay? Because when I was at UNC, my freshman and sophomore year, I used to feel the same way to a certain extent about UNC, okay? I felt like I wasn't necessarily getting a fair shake and that my problems that I was having at the university was because of the white man holding me back. Like, I actually did buy into that my first 2 years at UNC. But what I started to realize is that all the issues that I ever had at that university, right, in regards to, academics or opportunities, things that actually really matter in the long run, it was all on me, right? I'm the only person responsible for my own actions. And when I actually started to excel at the university is when I took responsibility for my actions. I took responsibility for my grades. I took responsibility for doing my own networking, doing what I needed to do to be successful. That's when I started to excel. And if I would have had that same type of mentality when I first got to the school, who knows where I would be right now. I think I probably would be still in corporate America, but I would probably be working for a very, very, very good company, right? Particularly in the financial services industry. That's probably what I would have been doing, right? But I do know for a fact that you do have people on campus that feel like, because they're black, they're not getting the same opportunities, or that the university is more geared towards white people. And they cite things like the fraternity houses and stuff like that that's on campus that are predominantly white as evidence that, hey, there is some type of systemic racism going on at the school. When, I got to say that a lot of minority students are getting opportunities at UNC just because they're minorities, right? It's a lot easier to get into certain programs and to be a part of certain programs because you're black. And when it comes to a lot of things at UNC, right? And that's just a fact. I'm so serious about that. I've heard stories about people getting into the business school having easier standards just because you're black, right? Or just getting into school generally just because you come from a disadvantaged background, right? And at the end of the day, again, whether or not you want to be mad about, certain institutions that are at the university, right? Or the history of the university or whatever, right? Or how you feel about, it being predominantly white or whatever, right? Regardless of how you feel about that, having UNC Chapel Hill on your resume is going to go so much more further than basically going to 98% of any other school in this country, right? Including all historically black colleges and universities. I'm sorry, that's just the truth. It is what it is. It's just going to be better. And especially if you succeed, if you work hard, you put in the work, you network, you have great grades, you get in a good major, right? If you do all that stuff at a school like UNC Chapel Hill, if you excel, you're going to have so many more opportunities and so many more doors are going to be open for you just because you went to a school like UNC. So I think it's terrible advice to tell black students, don't come to UNC because we feel like you might not have the same opportunities or so-called racism. That's actually the wrong thing you should be telling people. What you really should be telling black students is that, listen, if you come to UNC, you got to work your ass off. You need to make sure you're networking. You need to make sure you're majoring in a major that's actually going to help you get a job, a good job. You need to make sure you're doing all the things that it takes to be at the top, to excel as university, because everybody that goes to this school is basically a top student, right? You're in a big pond here, right? So when you come, you better bring your A game and you better work your ass off, because that's how you're going to be successful. There are going to be jobs, there are going to be opportunities, there are going to be companies that only are going to recruit from UNC Chapel Hill, that you're only going to get in front of because you went to UNC Chapel Hill. It is what it is. So I think it's irresponsible telling students to do that. I think it's irresponsible to sit here and try to play up this whole racism card as a means to try to, again, discourage people from going to a school in which they're going to get way more opportunities than they will ever get going to any other school in this country. Again, having UNC Chapel Hill on your resume, it just, people automatically just think something about you. I've experienced it. They automatically think that you're smart. They automatically think that, okay, well, this guy has a good head on his shoulders. This guy's going places. You're not going to get that at many other public schools. It's basically a public Ivy League university, and you're sitting here telling black students not to go because you feel like, oh, there's some racism, even though you were voted student body president among your peers. It's ridiculous. These people are a lot of these people have race pimps. They make their careers and their reputations and they build their brands off of victimhood. And this is all this is. It's just more victimhood. You're at one of the best schools in the damn country and you still complaining. Just work, right? Just work. Shut up and just work. If you do that, you don't have to worry about racism because you will be too good for people to pass up, right? That's what you need to be doing. I'm telling you, I know that from personal experience being there. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.